Welcome, boys and girls. Costin here with a discussion about Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon, and about Grand Cathay and the impending rework that Creative Assembly should hopefully be releasing alongside the Tigermen DLC that's coming probably around the end of May. We don't know for certain because Creative Assembly doesn't give out those dates out publicly, and anyone who does have them as a content creator, and I don't, for the record, I have not gotten that information from Creative Assembly as a content creator. Anyone who does is not going to talk about them. Is always a bit of a mixed bag relationship between content creators and Creative Assembly and corporations in general. You know, what kind of information do you give them? How do you give them? And how do you talk about things as a content creator without lying about them? Always kind of a bit of a complicating factor. But here's what I guess, based on publicly available information on the subject. I would assume that it would be coming out on May 21st or 22nd, 23rd. But basically some of the last few days of May, because that's what they mean, generally speaking, corporations in general, when they're talking about like, oh, this is the release window towards the end of spring. I would hope and believe and think that Creative Assembly should release the DLC something like on April 22nd. It would probably require them to reallocate resources from both 40k Total War and Medieval Free, and also get extra resources from Sega in order to do so. But it would be a smart move instead of having to wait for 2 months, essentially, for a DLC that's only going to have one Lord pack. Same with the Nagash DLC, by the way, which I would assume would be when they talk about summer, it could very well turn into winter. That's the problem. That's something I think Creative Assembly needs to deal with at this particular time and place. And yeah, some people are going to be like, oh, take your time, fix all the issues. It's not ever going to work like that. If they're delaying releases because they don't have enough resources, then that means they're also delaying QA. They just need more resources in general for all of these kind of things. That's the tipping point I would stress out. So yeah, April 22nd would be a good period to release it. Content creators get access to it like 1-2 weeks before in advance. Something along those lines. Anyway, that's just my perspective, not necessarily what's happening behind the scenes. Because what's happening behind the scenes in Creative Assembly, God knows what's happening behind the scenes in Creative Assembly. I'm not sure if even the people running Creative Assembly are fully aware of what's going on behind the scenes, because it's a mess. Okay, so that's with regards to the DLC release window. Let's talk a bit about Cathay. What does Cathay need? It needs a better harmony system than the current one it has. It needs a better Great Bastion system. One of the things I would say with the Great Bastion is, one, these settlements should have multiple, more building slots than just 4. Each of them should have like 6, similar to how the High Elven Gates had, I believe, 6 at the launch of Warhammer 2. Because they were used as recruitment centers when Warhammer 2 came out. That would be better, and if the entire Great Bastion was in its own province, like province of free settlements, that would help with growth. That would decide, okay, I'm going to fortify this sector or that sector. But really, the Great Bastion is largely an irrelevancy because you can always use Zaytan to hold Village and Bay and stop anyone like Sail the Faithless from becoming a problem. So the entire system of the Great Bastion is just like a waste of resources. That's one thing. Another thing that Creative Assembly should change is regards to Jade Warriors. So what would be great with Jade Warriors is if we could upgrade them, some limited form of Warband upgrade system over there for them. So like you could turn Jade Warriors into Jade Warrior Halberdiers. If we could get Jade Lancers from the basic barrack system, and Peasant Horsemen from the regular building chain, maybe tier 2. As for Grey Longma Riders, you could just attach them to the Celestial Beacon. Or if they're going to do a new building chain for the Tigermen, which I assume they will, you could put them over there. Now, economically, growth-wise, etc., the Cathay and economy is good enough, but the reason it's good enough is because they can reduce upkeep by such a ridiculous amount. So I think their baseline economy should be improved, but they should not get as much of an upkeep downside. Because having such a low upkeep means that they continuously invalidate the entire military supply system. And when they do so, then it stops having any kind of relevancy. It also means you have no incentive whatsoever when you're playing a Cathay campaign to actually invest in the economy. You invest in everything, literally everything. Like, I would sooner get a growth building, a control building, than actually getting an economic building, just because of the sheer amount of money that I do have in a Cathay campaign. One of the important things that Cathay does really need is casualty replenishment hero, and hopefully that will be provided with the DLC. Though from my perspective, when we're talking about casualty replenishment hero, Alchemist should be the casualty replenishment hero, and the current effect that they provide, which is increased mobility, should be switched out to a new hero or given to Astromancers. And Astromancers currently give you scouting. What they should instead give you is that campaign movement range. Would make sense given the lore of magic. You look at celestial wizards, they also provide that for the Empire, so give them the campaign movement range. Alchemist casualty replenishment, and the new hero they're gonna add could give you scouting. Change things around. Also make all the heroes available to recruit earlier, so tier 2 recruitment, tier 3 increased capacity. That's something I'm going to repeat until the end of time. Remove the effect of victory conditions, which give you plus 3 hero capacity to all heroes, because it ends up being ridiculous. Very importantly for Cathay, would be great if they got significantly more climate, or if there was climate you could unlock further in the campaign. Also, Jan Bo's entire campaign structure needs to be changed. There's a mod that literally puts him starring in Cathay, and that actually ends up resulting in a better campaign. As for Miao Ying herself, she's the worst of the Cathay campaigns, and if they don't change her, she's still going to be the worst. The problem with Miao Ying's campaign is, one, Nangao is a really bad province that could use an extra settlement, let's say around here. That's the first point. Or maybe just put the terracotta graveyard part of it, I'm not sure. But I think that would be a very useful thing. Like, this entire province of Land of Stone and Steel just doesn't necessarily add that much to the game as is. Maybe just remove it, or if they're looking to expand the map in the future, that would work very well. I mean, as a legendary lord, she's obviously very powerful in terms of the skill she has, but she's not really worth playing. She's more so worth confederating, getting her on your side if you're going to be playing any other campaign. That would be a perspective on some of the things Creative Assembly could do. I mean, Cathay has a lot of things going for it, but they do lack that casualty replenishment situation, which does end up hurting them. They could also use an improvement to the whooshing compass, because right now the entire compass is pretty pointless. You either switch between Great Bastion, but if they give us a casualty replenishment hero, everyone is just going to use Celestial Lake, because who gives a shit? So the entire compass and unlocking compass directions needs to happen better. Research tree changes, caravan changes. Like, yeah, the entire research tree is very outdated and it needs to be completely overhauled. I've talked about this in previous videos. Being able to research 2 things simultaneously, one military thing, one economic thing, at the same time would be a much better system for every race across the board. Or you can split the research rate focus that you currently have, and let's say, you have research rate of 100, you put 50 in something, and you put 50 in something else. That would be a good way to overhaul the research tree for every race simultaneously without completely breaking the game, or having to redo every single race. Final point is something of a meme. There's always that Miao Ying and Emmerich meme. Like, oh, Emmerich is chasing after Miao Ying. Miao Ying does not give a shit about Emmerich, and she would basically tell him to saw it off. Because, oh, Emmerich looks flashy, and he's nice, and he's pretty, and he rides a dragon, so that's the equivalent of a dipshit in real life who looks nice, has fancy clothes, and rides a Ferrari. Miao Ying does not give a single flying fuck about that kind of situation. If anything, if she actually were to choose someone, she would probably choose, and I'm gonna laugh at this notion because it's gonna blow people's brains out, it would be someone like Skarsnik, someone who's very intelligent, someone who's very careful, someone who doesn't necessarily have the flashy status, but someone who gets by with not necessarily the best kind of situation. Yeah, Miao Ying and Skarsnik, that's a real, actual choice that Miao Ying would make. That's a new meme, boys and girls. Spread it around, make it happen. Make it flashy. I mean, hell, she'd probably choose Tretch Craventail over ever having to deal with with Imrek. That's saying a lot considering everything. Because Tretch is... He's a sewer rat through and through. I mean, Skarsnik at least has the fact that he's a master strategist going for him, and that's actually worth far more than you think. There is a huge difference between Skarsnik and Trish Craventail, even if on a surface level it doesn't seem so. You know, personally, as a content creator, I'm with the channel that I have, I'm more along the Skarsnik type of people. You know, someone with more limited resources than I like, dealing with the best with things the best way I can. Would sure be nice if people stop screwing around with me, though. Would sure be nice. But anyway, that's all I had on the subject of Grand Cathay. I'll be talking about Warhammer 40k Total War in the near future and what I think Creative Assembly should do with it. But yeah, naval combat is a big part of it. Release window is a big part of it. Then we gotta talk about Dawn of War 4. Costin signing out. Stay tuned for more.